with Dayo.
Hello, good evening once again. Welcome. Still had fact to 90.3 Nigeria info and Hijacked. I'm Dayo. It's 11 minutes going past 4 p.m. The conversation continues. Thanks for staying tuned. And there's several ways you can put it. Put the matter we'll discuss it next. The DSS entered one chance. The DSS has been one chanced. The DSS had a one chance situation. The DSS, well, like I said, there's several ways you can put it, but the Vanguard puts it this way: one chance thieves hijacked our case file at Igboho's associates. It's, of course, the DSS that's saying that. Or the DSS, Department of State Services, on Wednesday told the Federal High Court in Abuja that a gang of mobile armed robbers, commonly known as One Chance, hijacked its case file on the fundamental right endorsement suit that was filed by detained associates of Yoruba Nation activist Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho. Consequently, the security agency, through its lawyer, Mr. I will pray the court to adjourn further proceedings on the matter till a later date. We told the court that the One Chance thieves snatched the case file from his colleague who unknowingly boarded their vehicle. He told Justice Obera Ogwuche that aside from the case file, other items belonging to his colleague were also taken. To be recalled that though the DSS had on August 30 released 8 out of the 12 persons it arrested at Igboho's residence on July 1, it however retained 4 others in its custody. Well, joining me right now in the studio to discuss this development as well as possibly one or two other matters the DSS is currently involved in as to whether or not or how the DSS has handled or managed the Sunday Igboho situation. I've got with me in the studio Barrister Festus Ogwuche. Barrister, good evening to you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Dayo. Thanks a lot.
Let's get straight to it then. Let's start with the excuse itself. The excuse that the lawyer or a colleague to the lawyer of the DSS, whom I might presume might be a lawyer as well, or maybe some legal staff, was transporting the case file, Sunday Igboho's case file, that which belonged to the DSS, to court, and the person boarded a one chance vehicle, and of course the person was robbed by this one chance marauders, as is their practice, and as such the DSS is unable to continue with trial because of this one chance experience. When you heard that, and based on my narrative at this time, what's your immediate reaction?
Yes, I was a bit jolted. It's rather bizarre, but it's not strange anyway. These things happen. They are human beings as well. Maybe they thought the file contained something that could be beneficial to them, and they finally found themselves in the hands of those criminals. But I think the DSS had not played it right, because they're supposed to at least give some protection to its staff, whether he's a lawyer or he's not a lawyer or whatever. And there are functional vehicles, official vehicles that can be used in that wise. A case file involving Igboho's aides and all that, it's a very serious matter. It's not something you just thrust in the hands of an official and say, go and give it to a lawyer in court. No. At the end of the day, it's a very embarrassing situation that the security, the DSS, which are voted to be the highest intelligence and security organization in Nigeria, has its case file missing and taken by armed robbers, one chance people, and it's really embarrassing as far as I'm concerned.
Do you think there was a gaffe here? Because I mean, I'm no security expert or official, but you have in security circles sometimes. There is a blackout on certain news items. Either it's going to be embarrassing or it might have national security implications. You sell a different narrative. You say something else. Do you think the DSS played the right card by announcing that One Chance stole the file?
Well, we cannot sit here and say it's true or it's false. But to the best that I understand, if it's coming from a lawyer and he's telling the court, I take his word for it. There could be other subterranean issues under it that you and I cannot see. But I would have suggested that the DSS should have looked for a better reason than telling the court or telling the judge that they lost their case file. But having said that, and it's not that we have any reason to disbelieve, and being that the lawyer is a minister in the temple of justice as well, I would rather be on the side of the fact that he had told the court the truth. And that is pending when we bump into any facts that say anything to the contrary. But as far as I am concerned, it is rather telling us the nature and composition and function of the DSS, particularly with regards to its staff and its official responsibility is that a case file of that magnitude, a case file of such importance, will be conveyed to court via a public transport where one-chance criminals could take advantage.
Because what that means, and just going from where you stopped, telling your line, what it means literally is that this official transporting that case file was taken along. You know, if you know what I mean, a popular along. Exactly. Was trying to start along, you know.
Yes, something like that.
Bearing a case file, like you said, of such great importance.
Yes, I find it difficult to really fathom how that kind of thing happened. And I have reasons to even want to think that I disbelieve the story of the DSS, but because it is coming from a lawyer, my colleague. And I want to take
you up on that. I'd like to take you up on that because we've had many instances where even the court is waiting for advice from the DPP. Advice never comes, and sometimes you have lawyers in court saying that they can't find the case file. So all of those times also your colleagues could not find the case file, as in this case where one chance stole the file.
I will not be here, I will not sit here to impugn the character of any of my colleagues, but I know that in court we believe each other. We are all ministers together in the temple of justice, but I think it should have been a lot better for the council to seek for adjournment on other grounds. If it's a game, then I think the DSS has played it very wrongly because it shows us how unserious they are. You know, which is far different from the manner they go about, investigations, arrests, and public trials by newspapers and by the media generally. What is important is that the case was adjourned at his instance, which is very, very important. And I think he will just go back and get the certified true copies from the court before he can know what to do. But apparently, that file contains a lot of facts, and probably could be a way of telling us that they don't have anything to defend. They don't have any defense in that suit. And apparently, maybe the judge should proceed. Remember, it's a fundamental rights application filed by the applicant. You know, those of them who have been detained and who were released and they are still kept there. And they are saying, look, our fundamental rights have been violated. So if the DSS comes up with that story, begin to wonder where they're going to get the defense from, or probably they're going to manufacture it at the end of the day.
How does this one-chance scenario affect this case? What impact will it have on this case going forward?
It will have impact, except if the file contains processes that are already before the court, in terms that they have been filed. But then I know that in most cases, such files contain other information and other things relating to that case which had not been put forward to court. Could also be part of the evidence that should have been put before court, and which they are holding back to see what the other party will be bringing. And if the file is gone, what happens to that fact, to those evidence? And that's the crux of the matter. And that's why I am thinking that if, at the end of the day, the DSS finds it correct to admit that they have no defense in the case, I think it's a lot better thing to say, that to tell his lordship that, well, we don't have any issues to canvass on behalf of the DSS in this matter, than to come to court and tell the court that the file is missing. Though that does not translate to the fact that I'm disbelieving what the counsel told the court, that the file was taken by one chance opportunists.
Speaking to this matter, and maybe even more generally as well, at what point, because I'd like to reference something you said earlier at the start of this conversation. He said, well, I'm paraphrasing you now, that it could happen. I mean, these things happen.
Yeah.
One chance does exist.
Yes.
People have been known to be victims of one chance. Incidentally, the DSS also is a victim of one chance now.
Surprisingly.
Remarkably so. But, so, at what point Well, is there a point where the court will consider excuses of this nature no longer tenable? Because if one chance could happen today, anything else could happen tomorrow, and these things really are known to happen. I know of a particular story, real life story by the way, where a person got on a one chance vehicle, was dropped off after being dispossessed, and the very first next vehicle he got, or the very next one, the moment he was dropped off, was another one chance vehicle as well. It's happened. So the DSS was lawyer or legal aid or whoever was robbed by one chance today. Who's to say that the next time he's going to court with the same documents, I don't know, one chance does not affect him again? So for how long can this go on?
Yeah, the thing is that there's no hard and fast rule for which the court can take such excuse as maybe justification for an adjournment. At that point, the court had already been informed that this is what happened to the counsel, and it is not within his hemisphere of judicial powers to go into the nitty-gritty of ascertaining whether it actually happened or not. He'll take whatever counsel had told him at face value, because we are all, like I told you, we are all ministers in the temple of justice. We are all part of this move, accomplishment of the tenets of justice within the society. So the court will take it on the face level. But when you begin now to come with that excuse over and over, the court will have cause to disbelieve you and refuse your motion, your application for adjournment. Because it will now be taken as if you are taking the court for granted.
Well, these things do happen.
But they do happen, and we are living in a very awful society as far as I'm concerned regarding criminality, and it's a regular occurrence. But to begin to ask yourself why DSS, like I stated earlier, will send a case file of such importance, of such magnitude, to court there alone. That's exactly the point. But for the judge, I think he acted properly, judicially and judiciously to okay, we'll give you the benefits of the doubt, to give you one chance. Go prepare yourself, bring your case file the next time, let's talk about it, let's go into the case. The next time they come with a story that's either similar to it or even worse than it, the court will definitely not believe them.
Is there a trend here? Are we seeing a trend as to how the DSS is handling these matters? And by these matters, I'm also referencing the situation with the Nnamdi Kanu case, where even his lawyer, Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer that is, has also filed a fundamental rights suit in court. If we look at the story from the Punch, Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer sues DSS for alleged human rights violation. One of the lawyers for the leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has dragged the DSS before the Federal High Court of Abuja for allegedly violating his fundamental human rights. In the suit, Upon demanded compensation of 50 million naira for the infringement of his right to dignity of the human person. He alleged that the DSS interfered with his rights during his routine visit to his client, who was being detained in a DSS facility. He also prayed the court to compel the DSS and its DG to issue a written apology and publish same in 2 national daily newspapers. He's seeking an order of perpetual injunction restraining the DSS and its reps from interfering with his right to dignity of the human person and freedom of movement during his routine visit to his client. And he described some unfortunate things that were done to him. Maybe I could check, see a few. He said they commandeered the applicant to a particular room within the facility for purposes of alleged bodily search, wherein they forced him to remove his medicated eyeglasses, wedding ring, belt, jacket and shoes, and accordingly left him shabbily dressed, harassed, intimidated, humiliated, amounts to a gross violation of the applicant's right to dignity of human person as guaranteed under Section 34 of the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended, and certain other articles as well. Are we witnessing a trend here?
Well, it has been the trend. You recall that the DSS, sometime when Sowore was released, and they refused to release him, and after a while did release him, and wanted to also rearrest him in court. I think it was before the Honorable Justice Ogwuche, and they created a scene. Later they made an apology. And I understand as a lawyer that to get to the DSS, even at the instance of your client who is incarceration, who is under detention there, it's like a needle, a cow passing through the eye of the needle. the DSS has a disposition that I quite dislike, and that is the manner and way they treat lawyers. I think for that, the EFCC has a better standard, and that is the standard that should be ahead, because the role of lawyers are properly defined. You know, the average person who is detained, no matter how heinous his offense is, he has access to his lawyer at all times. And in giving him that access, you don't necessarily have to dehumanize a lawyer. Because those acts that are mentioned there, to the extent that I do not know whether they are correct or not, but if they actually happen, it amounts to degrading punishment to a person of the nobility of a lawyer. You know, if you look at the basic principles on the role of lawyers, a United Nations instrument, which Nigeria is signatory to, it recognizes that the protection of all persons under any form of detention or imprisonment provides that a detained person shall be entitled to have the assistance of and to communicate and consult with a legal counsel. That is the standard all over the world. You go to the DSS and you begin to sign documents from one end to the other. I think what is important at the stage of your arrival as a lawyer is to identify yourself as one. They have a legal department. And even if it's your DSS and you want to maintain the high standards of security and intelligence in your domain, that doesn't mean that you go dehumanizing lawyers who are only coming to look at their clients, discuss with their clients. Because if you treat a lawyer that way, that means you're also violating the fundamental rights of the person in your custody. That's the implication. So, to the extent that we cannot delve into the nitty-gritty of this case because it's already a matter pending before a court of competence, being sub judice also, I think I'll say that the DSS must have to do some bit of reforms in its modus operandi, particularly when it comes to dealing with lawyers, because lawyers are part of the machinery of justice. Whether a judge today was a lawyer yesterday, and a lawyer today could be a judge tomorrow. So you don't begin to look at lawyers with suspicion and thinking that they could do that and do that. And ask a lawyer to come to remove his trousers, remove his wristwatch, his
wedding
band, and all that. I think it's taking it too far. That's rather very bizarre, and I think the DSS has to put itself in a proper perspective, because this is a democratic system. Even in seriously draconian governments, you seldom find this kind of attitude. In the days of the military, it wasn't like that, I can tell you.
Is the DSS losing its substance? Because I've heard it said several. I mean, almost gone are the days, if not entirely gone, are those days when the DSS was not seen but highly revered, and you hardly ever saw them, but you knew they were there. They were like ghosts lurking in the shadows, overseeing things, watching everything, knowing everything, hearing everything, and taking control of everything, or at least whatever they chose to. But these days, they're everywhere, releasing press statements almost on a daily basis, conducting media trials, and even now, they're victims of one chance also.
That goes to tell you about how weak our institutions are. It's not just the DSS alone. What about the military? They are just as ubiquitous as the normal civilian population. I'm sure it must be a toddler during the Second Republic of Shehu Shagari, but I know that we look for soldiers. You seldom find them on the streets, except you see them going for one range operation somewhere and the bosses and all. I say, we shout out, see soldiers, see soldiers. Then it was a kill and go policemen. That's the name they tagged them that time, but it's not actually they were there. The mobile police force was there on ground and all that. But today you see soldiers everywhere. Almost every bit of law enforcement operations, soldiers are sent in there. And they're all over the place, which is not supposed to be. Just like you say, the DSS is also suffering that institutional weakness, institutional debilitation, which is totally wrong, because its direct responsibility has to do with security and intelligence gathering. And not much of it is going on. Rather, maybe they are busy trying to see who has defaulted in law, or which radio station, broadcaster, or journalist has defaulted the NBC code and probably invite him for discussion, which is totally wrong. I think they have their own very areas, very narrow strictures of operation. No, nothing stops them from doing anything for the security of the country, but I think they should adhere strictly to those areas touching on intelligence gathering, touching on security. touching on the protection of our sovereignty and all that, which they are known for all over the world, because in almost every country have them. They have the secret service of those countries, and they know the areas of their wherewithals in terms of function, in terms of mechanism, and in terms of organization. But when it comes to going into almost every issue, I was here the other day trying to fathom why the DSS could prosecute matters in court, whether they have been granted some sort of prosecutorial powers, which I think they are yet to have. So it's either their lawyers are doing this prosecution as private legal practitioners, or they're doing it under some other law that we don't know yet.
Well, it's Hot Facts 91.3 Nigeria info here in Port Harcourt. We go for a break right now. I guess Barrister Festus Ogwuche will be with me when I return. We're still discussing the one chance situation the DSS have found themselves in at the moment, which no doubt has has greatly affected the Sunday Igboho AIDS fundamental rights case. But more on this when we return from the break. Do please stay with us.
keeping up with political issues and developments around you only on Nigeria Info.
And now, Hard Facts. Hard Facts with Dio.
Welcome back. Still Hard Facts to 91.3 Nigeria Info here in Port Harcourt. I'm Dio. 23 minutes to go before 5 o'clock. We've got the news update at 5. Discussions continue afterwards with some other matter. But for the moment, we continue with the earlier matter. Once again, story cut to the Vanguard newspaper. One chance thieves hijacked our case file on Igboho's associates. That's according to the DSS. You want my guest once again with me in the studio, Barrister Festus Ogwuche. Barrister, you're welcome once again.
Oh, thank you very much.
Join the conversation right now. The lines are open 0817 923 0002 or 0003 or 0007. We are live on facebook.com/Nigeria Info PH. And speaking on Facebook, Cosmos Udemet goes, well, funny, how can this be true? Funny indeed, I must tell you. If this happens to be true, then you would say it was a well-orchestrated, organized plan. If there is no case file, that means the man in question does not have a case to answer. Then it should be set free. Funny indeed. Now, is that a possible implication here? Since there was no case file, no case to answer, let the man go.
No, it's not a possible implication, except if it becomes the tradition that each time the matter comes up before the court, counsel from the DSS will still raise that as the excuse for adjournment. If it becomes something that's overflogged or a vicious cycle of excuses, then of course it can translate to that implication. Yes.
All right, once again, the lines are open. Joining, let's get your take on this via Facebook still. Henry Yala goes, this is showing that everybody in Nigeria is going crazy. Can you imagine this local excuse? Peter Efale in Yamgol goes, if this missing file happened in a saner climb, heads would have been rolling. But here, no one takes responsibility for these kinds of embarrassing events. Again, this is another pointer to how weak, unorganized and rudderless leadership we are subjected to. Interesting what he said here about, taking responsibility. And I remember you said a while ago, you said it's even gone beyond the DSS now, even the military, for example. Reminds me of the unfortunate incident quite recently on one of our waterways here in River State, where a military helicopter shot at some cargo boat. The military claiming that they were transporting illegally refined products, but the individuals who were there granted interviews and stated that we were transporting consumer products, and they were not in hiding. Their identities are known. They gave their names and they said that I own this boat. This is my assistant. It did not happen. And after that, and the military released some statements, quite frankly, which I found to be disingenuous, really, and I expressed my thoughts on that on radio, but nothing more from that. We shot them, and that's it. And no reports of a further investigation, at least to determine whether or not they were ferrying illegal materials, whether or not the military guys who fired shots and possibly killed persons did their jobs appropriately or not.
Yes, we find these kind of strange scenarios in systems that have gone a little out of the ordinary. And Nigeria has apparently gone out of the ordinary in more recent times. It's rather unfortunate that we have that kind of situation in our hands. But you see, these abuses come to play when there's a system that is not working properly. We are almost at the brink of jumping into the cesspool of destruction, if not for the grace of God. And we thank God that we are still where we are, but at the end of the day it will be abated. The fact is that a lot of these things, institutions you see working here and there and doing all manner of things, are not just doing these things on their own. They may not have the legal backing to do some of these things they have done, like this narrative you just told me concerning the military, but because their superiors at the top allow it. In ordinary clients, like I gave you the example of the Second Republic during the Shagari days, where we were looking for soldiers. You see one single soldier dressed in military uniform. We are even missing them, along the streets, and you begin to point, even in Lagos then, oh, that's a military, I saw a soldier the other day, and it becomes some bit of strange tale. But it's very, very unfortunate that we have this situation, and it's because the institutions are very weak. very, very weak, including the judicial system. Every system has been brought to its knees by the political elites, simply for the sake of pandering to their interests and ensuring that maybe they can use them to do one of two things to suit their own purpose. And that's a fact of our existence, which is very, like I said, very, very unfortunate.
The lines are still open, and welcome to join if you will. The numbers once again, 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, and 0817-923-0007. But via WhatsApp, via several comments. This one goes, childish. The other day, they said they didn't have vehicles to convey Nnamdi Kanu to court. I see they don't have enough vehicles. Today, they are telling the court that...
forgot that.
Today, they're telling the court that one chance stole their case file. I see they don't have enough vehicles to convey their lawyers to court. Wonders of this government, where a snake also swallowed money. That's from John Peters. But I think the snake swallowing situation was addressed. Some of that, I suppose.
Yes.
Still via WhatsApp, I actually need for this narrative to be lawful and avoid any illegality, because my case file may be snatched by these street urchins from DSS. That this is highly hilarious that DSS engaged the services of public transport for official duty. And Samuel from Ilade Watch sent that. We've got Francis from Igboho on the line. Francis, you're welcome. Please go on.
Good evening. My name is Francis.
Hello, Francis. Go ahead.
To me. I'm not telling you. Just this afternoon, I'm a student of Uniport. I was coming from a friend's burial at Bolu Haru. Now, I was stopped by SARS operatives, and they searched my phone, which they didn't find anything. And they searched my pocket, they didn't see anything. What they only saw on my phone was Binance. I'm a merchant in Binance, which is not illegal. And I told them, and they said that I should enter their car. I was like, why? What's my friend? They said I should enter the car first. I refused. They slapped me. I told them if they like they should kill me, but I will not enter this car. These men were beating me. I'm still wearing my torn clothes now, because they drove me all the way from Haruk Road to Elele, stopped at the road and asked me to use my ATM card to go and withdraw all the money in my account. I refused. They now said I should make transfer to one of the boys they were carrying in the car who has an ATM card. By force, I had to make transfer of everything in my account to that boy, and the boy had to come down from the car and use POS. I told them, okay, drop me at airport road where I can at least see a car. They refused. They dropped me at Elele. I begged them. They gave me 4,000 out of the money I transferred to them. And that 4,000 is what I used to book both Sam. I was like this as I'm talking to you. I'm headed towards Mokoro.
How much did you transfer to them, if you don't mind my asking?
I transferred to them 50,000, and I told them that 45,000 is my school fees, which I pay in Uniport. They refused.
If I may ask you a question, if you don't mind, another question rather. No Why did you refuse to withdraw the money yourself, but just to transfer to someone?
I was going with my ATM card. I told them I was going with my ATM card.
Oh my.
These things are not strange anymore in this climb, and that was what...
The problem is that people were standing there when we were, because actually when I refused, they were beating me. I refused to enter the car. People were standing there. Nobody came to say what is going on. Everybody just kept quiet and was minding their business. No problem. It will happen to everybody someday.
Oh my.
They may not necessarily be police operatives. They could simply be criminals. I think he did not tell us to the extent to which he tried to ascertain their identity. But if they are police, then it's rather unfortunate, and I think that's what led or culminated to the NSAS protests that nearly engulfed the entire country. But that's this is part of the tales you hear when you're battling with institutions that are weak, where human beings take authority onto themselves and act as if they are power, and a naked display of power. It's abuse of power, and these are rights. These are issues that are protected under international law and domestic law, and they are punishable even under domestic law. But this tale this gentleman just told us is one that is rather sad. Very, very sad.
But even if, assuming that they are police officers, and I personally rather assume that they are police officers than assume that they are not police officers, because we have heard several tales of actual police officers conducting conducting themselves in this criminal manner.
Yes.
But one of the things I picked from his story, and I'd like to ask you is, does a police officer, SARS or whoever, by the way, SARS no longer exists right now.
I think it meant SWAT.
Okay, yeah. Do they have the right to simply stop you and search your phone?
They don't have that right. Nobody has that right to do that. Even if you concede to it, you're alienating your rights, and you know that those rights are inalienable. They don't have right. Before they can do that, they must go seek the intervention of the courts to give reason why they want to go into it, because you have your rights to privacy. So why they want to do that, and give cogent reasons based on affidavit of evidence before the courts will grant them. That is even if you concede. You know, but it's difficult to get somebody to concede voluntarily that, look, search my underpants. And it's the same thing as a phone, a telephone. We are living in rather very bizarre times, and we just hope that we get out of this nightmare as soon as possible, because if it prolongs for a long time, it becomes a kind of tradition that the next generation could just acquire naturally and continue with. And it's really dangerous for us.
I also had an encounter with some police officers not too long ago when he insisted on searching me. And I simply asked him, okay, that's fine, but why do you want to search me, officer? And he was infuriated and said I must be drunk to ask him that question.
Yes, that's the attitude, because they take their law onto themselves. A policeman cannot search you just like that, except he has reason to suspect. Even if he has any reason to suspect, you know, I mean, due process should be followed. There's what we call search warrants, and it's not going to be search in terms that maybe to look around if you have small weapons around you. Those ones can be permitted in an ambience that is infested with crime. Those ones can be possible, but in doing it, you must respect the fundamental rights of the individuals.
We've got on the line right now. Couple calls. Roma from Igboho, you're welcome. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Dayo.
All right, go on.
Okay, I want to just explain an incident I had today with the River State Task Force around Air Force Road.
Which task force exactly?
Illegal
motor parks and markets and all that.
Yeah, they usually have police attached to them.
Okay, yes, I believe so.
Okay, so my car was parked on the road. Two of my tires, but that's my right side, the front and the back side was on the pedestrian. Then the left side on the road, that's my car was planted. Properly parked off the road. Not too long, I had these task force officials stormed on me like they saw one criminal or something with a Hillock's arm. So the police officer in the attached to them, two police officers actually, asked me to come down from my car. So I asked them why. Because I was illegally parked. And the Hilux was parked the same way I was parked. Two tires on the pedestrian, two on the road. So I told them, how would I have parked? Because I would have parked on the road, that's my fourth tire on the road. And I asked them, your Hilux is parked the same way I'm parked. And this guy told me bluntly, if I insist on not to move going with them, they're going to shoot my four tires, possibly shoot one of my legs and leave. Nothing will happen. And he was smelling of India hair. His name on the vest he was wearing was Abbas, A-B-B-A-S. They had this argument for like 1 hour. I was told that if I got to the office, I was going to pay 120. But I should give them 160. I should get half of it here now and go my way. We had this back and forth to like almost 1 hour, and I was parted away with 5,000 naira.
All right, Roma. Daniel from NT Road, you're welcome as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening.
Go ahead. Daniel, go ahead.
Thank your guest. The solution to this issue is that when the electoral process is seems to be transparent, then we can put in the right set of people.
Yes.
So if we can get our electoral process right, we can come out from this quagmire. Leading the people is not a rocket science. When we get it right, e-voting and the rest of it, that will be the beginning of our success story. And giving our hearts to Christ. it will go a long way to revamp this nation. It's working, but God bless Nigeria.
I don't know. God bless Nigeria indeed. Vara, what's up? Even though the issue of one chance is not new to us in Nigeria. In other words, I mean, it has gone digital. Nigerians lose a plane to one chance sometimes, lose a case file to one chance. It's just the list of one chances. Funny country indeed. Calvin Frank from Port Harcourt sent it in. And the respected barrister, is this really a difficult case to crack? Is the account of the cash, is the accounts the cash was transferred to not domiciled on Earth? Jesus, this case is a piece of cake. More than enough info to crack. That's from Newton Akire. We have to wrap this up in a moment. But you said that earlier, these things are allowed to fester because you and I heard all kinds of excuses for when things like this happen. People say, oh, it's the boys on the streets, their superiors don't know about these things. And you said a while ago that these things do fester because their superiors allow it to continue. Is that the case, or the superiors really are unaware of what's going on?
It depends on the circumstances. There are instances when the juniors go into a frolic of their own to do things that the superior may not be aware of. And there are instances where we know that the superiors are very much aware of. You recall that one time, I think it was Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch, they gave a report about the existence of OC torture in police station. The IG of police that time was Ogwuche Novo. And he came out with so much vituperation against the human rights organization and denying them. But later, investigations clearly showed that these things actually exist. So in some cases, the superiors will sort of feign ignorance of the fact that these things exist and maybe act as though they don't really happen. And if you go to them, they may try to deny that they are not officers, they're not police officers. The police officers cannot act that way until maybe you catch them red-handed and bring it to their faces, and they could say, yes, it is possible, but we are not aware of it. So it depends on which perspective you want to look at it from.
Now how about the executive at the different levels, especially we've got state governors, we've got the president. Are they also unaware? Because Nigerians daily, here in Rivers State, for example, hardly a day goes by we don't hear of some unfortunate tale involving security operatives, especially the police. Can governors claim ignorance? Can the president claim ignorance as well?
No, they can't. They are part of the political elite, and they put us in this quagmire that we find ourselves. You know, politics is contemporaneous with democracy, but the pattern it's taken in our country is becoming something else that some of us begin to fear for anarchical dimensions, and that is exactly what it's going to, the direction it is going to. Those governors, those presidents you are talking about are very corrupt. We have some of the most corrupt human beings in government in this country, and you won't expect anything less. It's a situation that they created. It's something that they relish. In some cases, it intends to subjugate the people, and they need that level of subjugation to be able to govern and do all the nasty things they think are possible within the ambit of maybe their governance, which they think is good for them, but it's not very good for the masses.
Well, we do have to wrap this up in a moment. What do we need to do to change this narrative? That sounds like a humongous question, I suppose.
I'd say somebody gave a recipe, a prescription, which I think is very apt to the effect that we vote in the proper people. And how do you vote in the proper people when your vote does not count? So give the ballot to the people. We know credible people. We know persons with reputation, with good personality hold governors. If you give the power to the people, allow elections to be free, fair, credible, there will be the enthronement of good governance. It must be, because the people that come on to political power will work with the conscience of the people.
On that note, we'll wrap up the conversation. Thanks for listening. Thanks to my guest, Barrister Festus Ogwuche. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Dayo.
We've got the news support the hour, the news update that is. Afterwards, is there such a thing as too much pressure on students to pass examinations to get good grades? When I return, please stay with us.